Incense snapped, a face like a demon, a trail of evil deeds, lives taken one by one. These ominous signs appeared simultaneously at my mother's funeral. The entire village was gripped by fear and dread. Those who attended the funeral began to die off, one by one, in the most bizarre ways. On the seventh day after my mother's passing, bodies lay scattered everywhere in the village. Towering flames reached the sky, obscuring all the sins. After a 4-hour journey, I finally arrived home from school. In the courtyard, everyone was bustling, preparing for the funeral under Master Bai's instructions. The moment I stepped through the door, I saw my mother lying stiffly on a dark wooden plank, salvaged from a door, clad in a loose burial shroud. At her head were a bowl of white rice, an incense stick, an incense burner, a cup of white wine, and an oil lamp. I wailed, rushing to her side. Father tried to stop me, but I ignored him, pushing him aside. As I drew closer, peering inside her shroud, I saw her neck was covered in dark bruises, as if she had been strangled. Rage surged, consuming my reason. I yelled at Father, "What did you do to my mother? What are these marks on her? How did she die?" Father lost his patience, stood up and moved to leave. Seeing this, I pulled out my phone, intending to call the police. The moment my finger pressed the button, someone knocked the phone out of my hand. It flew, hit the wall, and shattered into pieces. My phone was old to begin with, and now it was completely useless. A man with blonde hair laughed at me. "Oh, old man Lee, your daughter is trying to call the police to arrest you." Hearing this, Father spun around and slapped me across the face. The stinging pain made my head reel. The commotion inside drew Master Bai into the house. Father and the blonde-haired man immediately changed their demeanor, becoming more submissive. Master Bai looked at the red mark on my face, his voice calm but authoritative. "Lara, old man Lee, come here. Stop causing trouble. Light the incense. Don't delay any longer." I sank down beside my mother's body, unable to speak another word. Father took the bundle of incense and approached the oil lamp. But just as the incense was about to touch the flame, a sudden gust of wind blew strongly, making the flame flicker ceaselessly. After closing the door, Father tried several more times, but no matter what, he couldn't light the incense. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Master Bai frowned, forming hand seals for a spell. He chanted, and only then did the flame steady itself. But when Father tried to light the incense again, it still wouldn't catch fire. "Master Bai, what now?" Father's voice trembled. Seeing his frightened state, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Ha ha, Father, are you scared? What are you scared of? My mother doesn't need your incense." My words must have angered him. He moved to hit me again. The moment he raised his hand, another strong gust of wind swept in, making Mother's short hair fly wildly. Her loose burial shroud billowed up and down. Father seemed startled, hastily, but carefully retreating towards Master Bai. Master Bai came to my side, pulled me to my feet, and placed 3 incense sticks in my hand. "Lara, you light the incense. If it can't be lit, your mother won't find her way to reincarnation." She couldn't live freely, and now even in death she couldn't reincarnate. I tried several times, trembling, but the incense still wouldn't light. Perhaps my mother truly didn't want to be reincarnated. Master Bai immediately grabbed Father's hand. He used a dagger to cut a gash on Father's finger, and dark red blood instantly dripped into the oil lamp. Then he took out a talisman, murmuring an incantation. Living beings accumulate much enmity, deep grievances are hard to resolve. One life's hatred, 3 lives cannot disperse. Now I bestow this wondrous spell to dispel all vengeful karma. Listen to these words and hatred will vanish. The talisman flew up and turned into ashes. Finally, the incense caught fire, but Master Bai's expression turned extremely grim. At that very moment, a frantic woman burst through the door. That madwoman was my aunt, my mother's older sister. Father used to recount that years ago, Mother and aunt escaped an earthquake. He kindly rescued the 2 sisters and gave them a place to stay. Whenever Father told this story, Mother's face always held an inexplicable sadness. When Father saw Aunt barge in, he kicked her hard and irritably yelled at me, "Get this crazy woman out of here. Don't let her cause trouble." Fearing Aunt would be physically harmed by Father again, I gently coaxed and pulled her back to her room. As we passed the spirit hall, Aunt kept shouting, "Sister, sister, run quickly." The men in the courtyard heard the commotion, their eyes fixed on us with ill intent. Their gaze was so nakedly hostile, it sent shivers down my spine. Rural funeral rites are typically intricate, just as the verses describe. Day 1, rest on the door plank, release the departed's resentment. Day 2, whip the coffin, no chanting into the casket. Day 3, release money into ancestral graves, ensuring descendants become officials for generations. But thinking about how the incense couldn't be lit, I felt that Mother's death was not so simple. I knew she must have died with a deep grievance. At this moment, Master Bai pulled Father aside to a secluded corner, his face grim as he stared intently into Father's eyes. "Old Man Lee, how exactly did Lara's mother die? If you don't tell me the truth, I fear that tomorrow, when we don't chant into the coffin, more troubles will surely arise." Father avoided Master Bai's gaze, constantly shifting his eyes, bowing his head, not daring to look him directly. After a long silence, he stammered, "That day, we did argue, and I got angry and pushed her. Then she just stopped breathing, but I truly didn't mean to." Master Bai sneered, leaving only a cryptic remark, "You know what you've done, deal with it yourself," before turning and walking away. After pulling Aunt back to her room, I was left alone, guarding Mother's body. Before leaving, Master Bai had instructed me, "The incense must not stop, the lamp must not go out. This matter is entrusted to you. You must watch carefully tonight." Waiting until midnight, as I drowsily lay on a chair, a sudden piercing scream reached my ears. It was Aunt's voice. Without much thought, I rushed to her room, only to find the door locked from the inside. Obscene laughter from several men echoed from within. "This crazy woman is usually hidden away by that girl. Now let's see who dares to interfere with you. Can't deny, this madwoman isn't bad at all. Ha, this petite figure, I'm already smitten. Brothers, let's not be polite." I couldn't believe Father's voice was among them. "HMPH, you guys can have your fun, but remember the deal. 200 each, don't forget to bring it to me tomorrow." The sound of fabric tearing echoed, and my reason shattered along with it. Immediately, I grabbed a hoe from the courtyard. Today, even if it meant risking my life, I had to protect my aunt. But as I prepared to break down the door, a cold gust of wind blew from behind. A faint figure appeared before me, then vanished instantly. Although it was very fast, I clearly saw it was my mother. I stood paralyzed with fright, my limbs stiff and unable to move. Inside the room, the men who had just been laughing obscenely now suddenly shrieked like dogs whose master had died, scattering wildly into the courtyard. They ran, shouting, "Ghost! Ghost! Spare us! Spare us!" They screamed as they fled outside, knocking over many objects in the spirit hall along the way. I don't know whose dog barked first, but then all the dogs in the village began to bark furiously in chorus. After regaining my senses, I rushed into the bedroom. My aunt was curled up in a corner of the bed, and Father had fainted, lying on the floor. There was no trace of Mother in the room. When I returned to the spirit hall, I found the newly lit incense had gone out, and the oil lamp had burned dry. Mother still lay there peacefully, but at that moment I was utterly exhausted, my vision blurred, and I collapsed unconscious beside her. The next morning, Master Bai arrived at our house very early. He came in and woke me. Crying, I recounted everything that had happened the night before. When he stood up to examine Mother's body, the sight before him terrified him, making him tremble. Mother's usually short hair now reached her waist, and the wrinkles time had etched on her face had vanished. This appearance, I had seen it before. It was in Mother's only photograph from before she was married. She had been around 17 or 18 then, and now she looked exactly like that picture. Master Bai looked at my mother for a long time, sighed, and then told me to lead him to Father. He sternly splashed cold water on Father, making him instantly awaken. Father saw Master Bai as a savior, scrambling to his feet, embracing Master Bai's legs, and pleading, "Master, save me. That woman has become a ghost. She's definitely here to kill me." Master Bai looked at Father as if he were refuse, his gaze full of contempt, as if relishing the abjectness of the man prostrate on the ground. After a long moment, he sneered and spoke, "Call some people over. We can't chant over the body in the coffin." Yes, I'll go find people right away." Father seemed to receive a command, immediately running out to call for help. "Don't rush. You need to call the men who were in the house yesterday. Tell them to come and help move the body." Father hesitated slightly. Master Bai slowly explained, "Each person knows what they've done. If the resentment isn't dispelled, no one can escape. Hurry up. If it's past the hour, it'll be too late." Father rushed out, his figure frantic as if being pursued. Master Bai regained his composure, but I could clearly see the anger he was trying to hide. My village was a small hamlet nestled on the mountainside, with only about 20 to 30 households over half an hour's journey from town. My parents had only one child, me. After I was born, mother never conceived again. Father often cursed her, calling her a barren tree or a poisonous woman without children, and frequently had secret affairs with other women. My grandmother was still alive then. Regarding the rumors about father, grandmother always praised him. She proudly boasted that her son was capable and no woman could resist him. Every time this topic came up, her face beamed with pride. He had many women around him, but none of them could get pregnant. Eventually, because of this persistent problem, he decided to go to the city hospital for an examination. The report stated he was infertile. I was still in elementary school at the time. When father returned home, he beat mother with a stick for an entire day and night. I, a small child, stood outside, pounding on the door, crying and pleading. Several aunts sat outside, eating melon seeds, muttering and gossiping, but no one offered to help. Grandmother sat on the ground, wailing, throwing pots and bowls into the yard, cursing mother as a fox spirit. It wasn't until DNA test results confirmed I was his daughter that mother was finally released from the room. From then on, during my school years, father refused to spend a single penny on me. Mother secretly sold her blood. For mother, and for myself, I studied incredibly hard. In high school, I applied for a school scholarship. Thanks to my good grades, I also received a bursary, which allowed me to just barely complete my education. Every time I came home from school, father would scold me relentlessly. What's the point of going to school? What good does it do? Can learning conjure gold and silver? You're old enough to be married by now, yet you're still in school, costing the family a fortune to feed you. He cursed me with bitter cruelty, as if my education had drained almost all his assets, even though he had never spent a single penny on it. Later, I passed the entrance exam to a reputable university in the city, becoming the first university student from this remote village. Father hid my ID card and admission letter. Mother knelt on the ground, pleading with him, her voice filled with despair. "Old man Lee, I beg you, let Lara go to school. She'll surely succeed later. Won't your life be better then?" Father drained a bottle of beer in one gulp, his uncontrollable rage making him hurl the bottle forcefully to the ground. The shattered glass fragments flew, cutting mother's hands. Her rough hands bled profusely, but she didn't flinch, letting the blood flow. "If you had given birth to a son back then, I would have sold the house to send him to school. This worthless girl wants to study, only for others to benefit. If it weren't for her wedding, where completing high school would demand a higher dowry, do you think I'd let her finish high school?" Mother wouldn't give up, continuing to plead, "University definitely won't require you to spend money. She said she can get a loan, and she can also work part-time to support herself." I also knelt beside her, saying I would work hard to earn money every month. I gritted my teeth and promised to send 200 yuan home monthly. I even thought it was the lure of money that made father agree to let me go to school. It wasn't until now, looking back at the diaries mother left before she died, that I understood father actually agreed to let me study because mother had promised him she would use her body to help him pay off his gambling debts. My eyes, bloodshot with rage, glared at the men standing before the spirit hall with Master Bai. Their names were mentioned in mother's diary. My hatred had reached its peak. Master Bai told them to approach mother's body. Seeing mother's current appearance, those men were scared out of their wits. Master Bai ordered them to kneel and kowtow 3 times before mother's coffin. Father and the others, like Chophead Kim, obeyed without hesitation. Thump, thump, thump echoed throughout the room. They intended to carry the door plank out of the spirit hall to place the body, but no matter how many times they tried, they couldn't lift it. My mother lay on the coffin, a slight smile seeming to play on her lips. The men looked at each other, their eyes pleading. Chophead Kim trembled as he asked, We can't lift it. What should we do?" Master Bai took out a small, gleaming knife and told the men to cut their fingers and drip blood onto the plank. Despite the pain, they complied. Drops of blood fell onto the wood, and when they tried to lift it again, they finally succeeded. The moment the plank was raised, the drops of blood flowed with the movement down to mother's body and vanished. Mother no longer looked as bruised as before. Master Bai seemed more relaxed, smiling as he followed behind them. The process of placing the body into the coffin was smooth. Nothing strange happened, and the faces of those men visibly relaxed. When the incense had burned out, Master Bai asked father to light new sticks. Just like yesterday, he dripped father's blood into the oil lamp. When father placed the incense in the burner, all 3 sticks simultaneously snapped in half from the middle. From unknown origins, an innocent child's voice sang out. Incense snapped, a face like a demon, a trail of evil deeds, lives taken one by one. Incense snapped, a face like a demon, a trail of evil deeds, lives taken one by one. Father's entire body stiffened. He tried 3 more times, and each time, all 3 incense sticks snapped in half from the middle. Everyone in the courtyard broke into a cold sweat. Master Bai pulled a whisk from his waist, calculating with his fingers. Immediately, the surrounding atmosphere fell silent. This is not good. As soon as he finished speaking, dozens of cats suddenly appeared from outside the spirit hall. Master Bai pulled me into the nearby woodshed, leaving only father and the other men in the courtyard. The cats roared, charging simultaneously at the men. After a commotion, the men in the courtyard were covered in scratches. Among them, a man named Old Man Liu VII lay motionless, face down on the ground. Old Man Liu II, his elder brother, rushed over and flipped him over. Upon seeing Old Man Liu VII's face, he immediately shrieked and ran frantically out of my house. His hoarse scream echoed through the village. "She's here for revenge! She's here for revenge! Ghost! Ghost!" Everyone rushed to check Old Man Liu VII, only to discover his face was a mangled mess of blood and flesh. Not a single piece of skin remained. A calico cat had leaped into Mother's coffin. It was gnawing on a piece of bloody skin in its mouth. As if provoked, Chophead Kim lunged towards the coffin, trying to catch the cat. The cat gracefully jumped and dodged, but he had pushed the coffin lid askew. With several resounding thuds, the coffin lid hit the ground. Both father and Chophead Kim were terrified, their faces turning ashen. Meanwhile, Master Bai merely sighed softly and murmured in a very low voice, "It seems she doesn't want to spare them." Dozens of cats lay on the eaves and around my house. They squinted, staring intently at the courtyard. Their eyes were exactly like the gaze of a cat hunting a rat. Looking at the lifeless man slumped on the ground, a feeling of gratification welled up inside me. Soon enough, Old Man Liu VII's mother arrived at my house, weeping. Even before she stepped through the door, her wailing curses were heard. "You demon-possessed, greedy family. My 2 sons were perfectly fine, and now one is dead and the other has gone mad. I demand you pay for their lives." She stepped through the door, rushed to her son's body, and shrieked. After a long silence with no one reacting, she lifted her head, ready to continue her tirade, but was startled by the scene before her and swallowed the words she hadn't yet uttered. My mother once told me that she had an opportunity to take me and aunt and escape this place. But at that very moment, several aunts and women from the village caught us and brought us back. The woman before us was one of them. When the cats saw her enter, they immediately sprang up into an attack stance. A cold glint flashed in their eyes. Aunt Liu, having never encountered such a situation before, hurriedly told the young men in her family to carry Old Man Liu VII back home. Father Chophead Kim and pockmarked Shen could no longer endure it. They pleaded with Master Bai, "Please, Master, show us a way out. We will be good people from now on." Master Bai just smiled and pointed towards the coffin. "Go, cover the coffin lid and nail it shut. Tonight at midnight we will bury her." Hearing this, everyone was utterly terrified. Chophead Kim quickly waved his hands. "It's already so sinister now, who would dare to go to the graveyard at midnight to bury her?" "Master, please don't play with us anymore. Quickly think of a way to save our lives. Chin Chunhua is now a corpse demon. She has already taken a life. She must want to take revenge, even if it means she can't descend to hell for reincarnation. Tonight, at midnight, I will set up an altar before the grave and perform a ritual. If we can bury her peacefully, then you all can consider yourselves to have escaped one calamity." The 3 men had no other choice but to sit as far as possible from the spirit hall, waiting for night to fall. Master Bai took a stack of yellow talismans and went outside. He walked around, saying, "My mother was filled with deep resentment before she died. Anyone who has ever harmed her should take a yellow talisman from me. When you return, burn it in front of your house and scatter the ashes around the courtyard. That way, you can keep yourselves safe for now. Otherwise, those who have harmed her need to be careful. As for those who never harmed her, don't be afraid. Without cause, there will be no effect. She won't come to your door." When Master Bai returned, almost all the yellow talismans in his hand were gone. I stared blankly at his empty hands. He seemed to notice my emotions and came to my side. "Don't be afraid, Lara. Your mother was a good person. Even if she becomes a ghost or a demon, she will protect you." My nose stung. I looked at Master Bai's face. "Master Bai, was my mother murdered? You know everything, don't you? Why didn't you call the police?" He gently patted my head in comfort, his lips moving slightly. Though the sound was very faint, I could still hear it. This is simply sowing the wind and reaping the whirlwind. I returned to Aunt's side, protecting the only relative I had left in the world. As dusk fell, outside turned into chaos. Old man Liu II had hanged himself in his house. Aunt Liu was weeping outside my door, but she dared not enter. You, Li, you killed both my sons. I'm telling you, I'll fight you to the death. If you don't compensate me 50,000 yuan, this isn't over. Get out here. Father, probably in a fit of rage, grabbed a sickle and stormed out. His deep voice cursed back, "Damn it, they deserved to die. They were cheating at the gambling table and sleeping with my women. Now they're dead, it's their own damn fault. Stop making a scene here. I won't give you a single coin." The sickle in his hand swung wildly with his furious mood. Aunt Liu, who usually saw father as weak in front of outsiders, was shocked that he dared to raise his voice to her. With disheveled hair, she lunged at father. Unexpectedly, her foot tripped on a rock, and as she fell, her body grazed the sickle. A wound shaped like a worm appeared on her arm, running from below her shoulder all the way to her wrist. Seeing father actually strike, Aunt Liu lost her earlier bravado. She stared at father as if he were a demon, then turned and fled. Blood dripped onto the ground as if trying to leave its own mark, but the earth absorbed everything, as if wanting more. The moon hung high above the mountains. It was time to go to the graveyard for burial. We, a group of people, silently made our way to the cemetery, guided by the moonlight. Father, Chophead Kim, and pockmarked Shen carried the coffin. It was strange, the coffin was very heavy and the journey was long, yet the three of them didn't seem tired. They seemed to sense the strangeness too, but dared not dwell on it, only wanting to quickly bury the dead and return to preserve their own lives. Master Bai walked ahead, carrying spirit money, clearing the path. The golden paper money was continuously thrown into the air, falling like snow, fluttering about. Each time the spirit money fell, it inadvertently grazed the three coffin bearers, and blood dripped onto the coffin, quickly disappearing. But they didn't seem to notice. Behind us, small luminous dots constantly flickered the cats. They followed us silently, only their eyes glowing brightly in the darkness. As we neared the cemetery, Master Bai gently instructed, "The coffin must not touch the ground. In a moment, I will perform a ritual before the tombstone. When I say lower it, you all directly and slowly place the coffin into the prepared grave. Do you understand?" The men nodded repeatedly, confirming they would follow the instructions. As we approached Mother's grave, I suddenly shivered, my entire body covered in goosebumps. Apart from the spot designated for the tombstone, the other three sides were surrounded by pine trees. The terrain here was also very strange, high behind, gradually sloping down in front. Master Bai burned a sheet of spirit money and tossed it into the grave, then took 5 bronze coins from his chest and threw them in. He motioned for the 3 coffin bearers to place the coffin into the grave. When the coffin touched the ground, a deep thud echoed. Master Bai held 4 incense sticks, lit a yellow paper, and murmured, "Disciple Bai Lang today completes the ghost capture, fulfilling the contract's wish in hand." When the incense was placed in the bowl of rice, the 3 men simultaneously turned towards the grave. Their eyes were empty, their bodies stiff. From who knows where, a figure materialized in midair. It was a woman with waist-length hair, wearing a burial shroud. I recognized her. It was my mother. Immediately, the cat's wails erupted from all 4 directions, wave after wave, like a mournful song echoing through the silent forest. She floated forward. Each time she glided forward, the 3 men on the ground followed a step. I stood behind, helplessly watching everything unfold. Seeing Mother's young face hovering in midair, I didn't feel scared at all. Until they all simultaneously lunged into the grave, piling on top of Mother's coffin. A strange image suddenly flooded my mind, my young mother pulling Aunt, running as fast as she could. But every fork in the road was blocked. Those faces were all very familiar, they were the villagers. My mother was tied up, beaten and cursed wildly. "Do you think you can escape? Old Mrs. Li, look carefully at your daughter-in-law. Late at night, we still have to drag people back to help you. I told you to break her legs." Women in our village, if they don't listen, just break their legs and they'll naturally become obedient. The scene shifted to the side room of my house. Aunt screamed in fear, the filthy laughter of the men making my head pound. Mother rushed into the room with a knife, pulling Aunt to run outside. Mother's hair was tightly grabbed, and she was slammed onto the bed. The screams, curses, and hisses were all drowned out by the vulgar laughter. "Old second, stop. Why is this little brat lying so still?" She stopped breathing. Everything around fell silent, not a sound remained. While I was still stunned, Master Bai began shoveling earth. He patted the rising mound of earth, smiled at my mother hovering in the air, and then raised his hand. Mother slowly approached, her invisible hand resting on Master Bai's. I completely forgot how I got back home. Aunt, who was usually frantic, had cooked porridge and was waiting for me inside the house. I rushed into her arms, sobbing as if my heart would tear apart. Since returning to this place, I could finally cry freely for once. After eating, I collapsed onto the bed, as if a 1,000-pound burden had been lifted, and drifted off to sleep. I don't know how long I had slept, but a frantic knocking suddenly resounded at the door. The knocking was so urgent it seemed as if a few more raps would break the door in two. I quickly dressed. Stepping outside, I saw the sun setting in the west. I had slept for an entire day. When I opened the door, I saw Chophead Kim's wife and pockmarked Shen's wife standing outside. Their faces were full of contempt for me, yet they dared not step inside my house. "You wretched girl, where's my husband?" "He hasn't been home for days. Did you lure him away? Just like your mother, you reek of filth from head to toe. Where is he? Tell him to come out now." I picked at my ear, saying impatiently, "There's no one else in my house. As for your husbands, how should I know where they are?" Where were they? Of course, they had been buried with my mother, but I wouldn't say that. Just as I was thinking of a way to respond, Aunt suddenly rushed out from behind me. She wielded a large broom, striking indiscriminately at the women outside the door, sending them scattering. Watching the scene of the women arguing, all I could think was that night was falling again, and who knew what would happen tonight. Unable to find their husbands, they wanted to call the police, but discovered that all the landlines in the village were unusable, and cell phones had completely lost signal. Some wanted to leave town to report to the police, but after walking for a long time, they still couldn't get out of the village. Panic began to spread. Everyone started trying to find a way to escape the village. But no matter where they went, what tools or methods they used, they couldn't get out of this place. The village became more chaotic than ever. As night fell, those battered by the bizarre situation could endure no more. All rushed back to their homes. The cries of cats echoed throughout the village. Otherwise, everything was strangely silent. Huddled in their homes, the villagers didn't notice that the yellow paper talisman they had brought back and burned in front of their houses was now emitting an eerie blue light. That light was like a guiding beacon. The cats followed the light. They excitedly leaped onto the roofs of the households, letting out cries like those of infants. At this moment, Master Bai and I stood before Mother's grave. He took a bowl from his cloth bag and poured white wine into it. The pungent smell of alcohol made my head spin. He gently stroked my head, his touch very light, a tenderness I had never felt before. "Lara, may I have some of your hair?" Though I didn't know why, I always had an unconditional trust in him. I unconsciously nodded. He took scissors, cut some of my hair, tied the strands with a black thread, and soaked the hair in the wine. A red paper was sealed over the mouth of the bowl. He bit his index finger and used his blood to draw a symbol on the paper. When the symbol was complete, the red paper began to burn, emitting an eerie blue light that illuminated the surroundings. A hand-sized straw figure was thrown into that flame. The straw figure's face strangely resembled my mother's, and the piercing shriek made me involuntarily cover my ears. When the surroundings plunged back into darkness, Master Bai spoke. "Lara, do you know about the soul fire of vengeance?" Of course, I didn't know, and Master Bai didn't really expect me to answer. He continued, "Human evil karma is a kind of retribution. People often think that as long as what they've done isn't punished, they'll never suffer losses. But karma always exists. It's like a fuse, like the fuse of a firework. When you light it, what happens? The firework explodes in the sky and vanishes without a trace. And karma will turn all evil deeds into ashes. If you want to ignite it, use the soul as oil and the spirit as fire. Karma ignited in this way will make people fall into hell forever, never to be released." He smiled, turning to look at me, the corners of his mouth upturned. "Do you want to watch the fireworks?" For the next 2 days, I was in a daze, merely eating and sleeping. While I was oblivious, something happened at Chophead Kim's house. When he was alive, Chophead Kim owed a lot of money to many people. This bald-headed man was big and aggressive. No ordinary person wanted to get involved with him. Anyone who didn't lend him money would be beat. And it was completely normal for him to borrow and not repay. Although no one was a pushover, everyone feared him. When Chophead Kim's wife caused a ruckus outside my house, everyone knew that Chophead Kim had disappeared. Now that he was missing, those who had wanted to leave the village but couldn't, enduring immense pressure, began to become mentally twisted. They had nowhere to vent but now seemed to find an outlet. Those who had lent him money gathered outside Chophead Kim's house. His wife stood inside, holding a rolling pin, yelling out, "I don't have a single penny. I'm not the one who borrowed money from you all." "I won't pay." The crowd outside, seeing her refuse to acknowledge any debt, immediately grew furious. "You two are husband and wife, how could you not know anything? Don't bother reasoning with people like this, let's just rush in. If there's no money, we'll take things from the house." This statement was highly persuasive. How could Chophead Kim's wife alone stop this crowd? The house door was quickly forced open. She was pushed to the ground, watching helplessly as everyone carried out their belongings. But a piercing scream interrupted everyone's actions. Inside the locked refrigerator in Chophead Kim's house was the body of a little girl. Initially, everyone was terrified and no one dared to approach to investigate until someone tremblingly spoke, "Isn't this Chophead Kim's eldest daughter who went missing?" A brave person got closer and after a moment confirmed, "That's right, it's Kim Penniless." Penniless? Maokayan means worthless money. The girl was 14 when she went missing. This happened over a year ago. So the girl wasn't missing, she was murdered. Imprisoned in her own home like that, the killer must have been. Everyone looked towards Chophead Kim's wife, but she was in the courtyard, laughing maniacally. This unruly brat, her father asked her to serve, but she dared to defy. A girl's fate is just to serve others, so why benefit strangers when you can benefit your own family? The more she spoke, the more insane she became, the muscles on her face contorting ferociously. Chophead Kim told me to teach her a lesson, so I used a pillow to cover her head. The more she struggled, the more force I used, more and more force. But then she just stopped breathing. I only wanted her to listen to her father. I did it for her own good. I didn't mean to. Everyone looked at her awkwardly, then at each other several times, before gathering their belongings and returning home. The cats, as before, continued to wail from their rooftops. They seemed to be growing even more excited. For many days, people kept disappearing daily. There was an old man at the head of the village who often laid hands on Mother, and an old woman who found joy in cursing Mother. There was old woman May, who more than once tried to sell my aunt to some family, and a hooligan who almost successfully kidnapped me. On the 6th day after Mother's death, several corpses suddenly floated on the river at the village entrance. Each body had punctured holes in the chest and abdomen areas. These were the bodies of the missing people. They drifted on the water, blood continuously pouring from the holes in their bodies. The river water had turned blood red. The entire village was enveloped in the stench of blood. The villagers became more anxious. Although not many people were left alive, arguments and resentment among them grew increasingly severe. Food in the countryside was not a concern. Even if they couldn't leave the village, they had more than enough to eat for a year. But even so, 2 households had already come to blows over this matter. Old Man Shen had stolen smoked fish and meat from his neighbor's house. Even when caught red-handed, he remained arrogant. This neighbor was usually Old Man Shen's lackey, but now that didn't matter anymore. He grabbed his tools and started fighting. The brawl only ended when one side was injured or killed, and the villagers ignored it. No one dealt with the bodies, the families just threw them into the river. The next day was the 7th day after Mother's death. Master Bai sat opposite me. We were eating mixed noodles prepared by Aunt. Her condition had clearly improved. Simple communication with me was no longer a problem. "Master Bai, after Mother's 7th day, my leave is over. I have to go back to school today." Once you go, don't come back. This place isn't good. This is my personal savings. Take it and use it for your studies. I don't use much." He pushed a card towards me. I didn't refuse, simply took it and put it in my pocket. I looked at Aunt, who was eating large mouthfuls of noodles, her mouth smeared with black sauce. "I'll take Aunt with me. I've found all the money in the house, it's enough to pay for rent. I'll work hard, there'll always be a way." After dinner, Master Bai saw us off along the road out of the village. He dispelled the illusionary barrier, and we simply walked out of the village. After a short distance, I turned back and saw Master Bai still standing there, watching us. There was a woman standing next to him. I couldn't clearly see who she was, but I thought it was my mother. After returning to school, the first thing I did was find and rent a nearby room. Although it wasn't large, it was enough for us to live in. Although Aunt's condition had improved a little, she still couldn't work. I still had some money, but looking further into the future, I found a shift job at a convenience store. The night shift didn't interfere with my studies, and the pay was also higher. Every day when I came home, Aunt had hot food ready, waiting for me. Such days had once been an impossibility for Aunt and me. What became of the village afterwards, I only learned through letters from Master Bai. I was very surprised to receive his letter, describing the situation after we left. After we departed, Master Bai once again went throughout the village, distributing talismans. He asked everyone to paste them on their doors, saying that after that night, the village would face no more trouble. Master Bai had a great reputation, and seeing that he was still in the village, the few remaining villagers all believed him. They were terrified of their current lives. Like drowning people seeing a straw, everyone obediently followed. They didn't know that these talismans were actually absorbing their vital energy. Gather energy to form a spirit forms a shape, use the soul to form a figure, and thus become human. And these energies had been channeled by Master Bai into my mother's soul. As night fell, the villagers hid in their homes. A gust of wind blew through, carrying a storm of fire. The firestorm slowly spread, burning down every house. But in those houses, not a single scream was heard. The fire burned for an entire day and night. When the police and firefighters arrived, they found that the small village had been reduced to ashes. No one in the village survived. At the end of the letter, Master Bai had also written, "My sins are far heavier than theirs. I will gradually repay them. Now, while I am still alive, I will accompany your mother to see landscapes she has never seen before." One cannot live in bitterness forever. Lara, your bitterness has ended. From now on, live the life you want to live. You must be happy. There was also a photograph in the envelope, an image of Master Bai and my mother. They were embracing. Master Bai's hair had turned completely white, and more wrinkles had appeared on his face. My mother's youthful face bore a romantic expression I had never seen before. The background of the photo was amidst magnificent mountains and rivers, with a flock of geese soaring. I think Mother must be very happy. That day, before Mother's burial began, Master Bai told me a story. The story began with the earthquake that year. The girl's house collapsed, her parents and younger brother crushed to death. She and her older sister were working in the fields, thus escaping the disaster. At that time, a couple wanted to adopt the two of them. Having lost their family, the two girls decided to accept the couple as their foster parents. The first time they arrived at their foster parents' house, the foster mother, with a benevolent expression, took them in. Both sides made it clear. The two daughters would not live idly. Once they found work, they would pay rent to her each month. They would leave once their home village was recoverable. A foster mother with a constant smile and a kind, loving foster brother. This made the girl feel that fate wasn't so bad after all. The girl soon found a carrying job. Although she didn't earn much, it was a good start. She also met a young man in town, an orphan adopted by the village sorcerer. They were similar in age and shared a common plight, so it was natural for them to become a couple. One ordinary evening, the window of the two girls' room was pried open, and a man jumped in. He tied the older sister's hands and feet, then assaulted the younger sister. When light returned to the room, the girl clearly saw the devil before her was her foster brother. He used her older sister as a threat and her purity as a weakness, forcing her to marry him. After witnessing her sister being raped and being utterly powerless, the older sister went mad the day after the wedding. It was then that the girl realized there were many other young girls in this village who were also tied up, some mad, some crippled. She tried to escape, but each time she was caught by the villagers and handed over to the Lee family. Later, the girl became pregnant and gave birth to a daughter. The beastly husband didn't even spare her mad sister. For the first time in her life, she picked up a knife and resisted. Although she was beaten again, she ultimately protected her sister. Among the tied-up women, some had died, others became like them, standing at the village gate to catch people and bring them back. She had a mad sister and a daughter to care for, so she began to learn to humble herself. Afterward, the girl's husband began to sell his wife's flesh. Not a few men in the village had entered her room, and those women tormented her relentlessly, beating her without mercy. They directed their husbands' curses and their husbands' blows and kicks back at the girl. What about her lover? Why didn't he save her? Hearing this, I couldn't help but wonder. Master Bai didn't answer me, merely pointing towards my father who was sitting in the courtyard, his voice almost hypnotic. "Lara, he won't make it through this night." "Then what about my mother?" Master Bai smiled faintly. "She will be with me for eternity."